welcome back to the Analyst Vajiram and Ravi, where we bring to you detailed discussion of important articles from both the Hindu and Indian Express. Today is 7th of November and here are the following articles that we shall be covering today. In the first one, as a fake viral video of an actress has been seen taking rounds on the internet, we are going to read about the deep fakes, the menace of it, and how is it turning into a potential source of disinformation across the world. In the second one, we will read about Central Information Commission as recently the Chief Information Commission has been appointed in India. In the third one, we will read about the Collegium System, which has recently recommended appointment of 3 Supreme Court judges. And then, in order to make sure that the Festival of Lights does not degenerate into a festival of noise, we will read about the prospects of using green crackers in India. And in the last one, we will read about an awareness initiative which is Quad-led, that is the Indo-Pacific Maritime Domain Awareness Initiative. So let's get started with it. So the first article is on information technology, and as it is covered by Indian Express, it says that a viral video of an Indian actress has spotlighted the big tech's deep fake problem. So what is this deep fake technology, which is also a part of an emerging technology, that is the artificial intelligence, and within which a subset which is called deep learning. We shall be reading all about it. But this is very important from GS3 point of view because we need to first of all make ourselves aware of the emerging technologies, their features, their threats, and also create awareness about the way forward that we need to take. So this particular article is very important from that point of view. So, what are the viral deep fakes? See, if you've been a social media buff, you must have came across some of the following videos. For example, a video of ex-president of USA, Barack Obama, lashing out at Donald Trump and talking about deep fakes. Then your video of certain football players or certain fans of footballs in the Madrid hosting the Palestinian flags. Or you must have came across the TikTok version of Tom Cruise. So all of these videos, though seem irrelevant to each other, they have something in common. That the events that they are showcasing have never happened in reality. And still they have been some of the most viral contents on internet, and thanks to artificial intelligence, which has gave us the new menace of deep fakes. So what are deep fakes? It is basically a technology of generating synthetic media or manipulated media using the technology of deep learning which comes within the subset of AI. So here we are trying to manipulate or edit the existing images or audios or videos into fabricated texts or into fabricated medias using the artificial intelligence technology. Now, the technology that enables deep fake creation is the technology of deep synthesis. Deep synthesis ensures that it is coming in convergence of two technologies. One is the deep learning of artificial intelligence and second is the augmented reality. So first of all, what is a deep learning? Deep learning is where neural connections are built across a computer, across a server, whenever it is subjected to large data sets, which trains it, which teaches it certain standards, algorithms and patterns, and on the basis of which it starts producing outputs which are similar to the inputted data. This is known as the deep learning mechanism of artificial intelligence. And what is augmented reality? This comes with an intersection between the real world and the virtual world, where certain computer generated programs or data or figures are manufactured, or basically they are imposed onto the real world. Just you can see in the case of the game of Pokemon Go, if you've ever played, here you can find the Pokemon or your favorite Pokemon can be spotted in the real world. So this is augmented reality. So using these two technologies, the deep fakes are created where the real reality is manipulated using the deep learning codes of artificial intelligence. Now, what is the essential working principle? As I have told you, it is the deep learning principle. Within the deep learning comes the generative adversarial networks. So this is a kind of neural network which works on two concepts. One is a generator at one end and second is having a discriminator at the other end. So how does this technology works? So you will be taking some real world images, for example, picture of Barack Obama and picture of another person who's voicing or who is giving his voice to Barack Obama. So these are two real world inputs that we will be bringing. We will try to compress them and induce certain variables with the help of a generator which is responsible for creating the fabricated or manipulated content from the real world data, and then this will be sampled by a discriminator which will check its authenticity. How fake does it look, or what are the number of deviations the virtual data or the output data is showcasing from the real world data. So when you analyze the number of parameters that are deviating, it again brings the feedback to the generator, and this way the generator takes away the input that is brought in from the discriminator, it improvises upon and then produces further finished images or further finished kind of graphics which are more in touch or more in line with the reality. So therefore we can see that with the advancement of the technology, with the growth of this technology of GANs, that is generative adversarial networks, we are seeing that it is becoming very hard for us to detect or differentiate between a real world data or a virtual world data. Therefore, the deep fakes are becoming a menace these days. Now, what are the threats that are posed by deep fakes? The first and foremost is it becoming a potential source of disinformation and misinformation. But before that, we need to understand the difference between two. Misinformation is any falsified information, or you can also call it as a fake news, which is not real, lacks credibility. But if this fake news is generated in order to produce some malicious intention or in order to satisfy certain malicious intention, then this is known as disinformation, and this is a potential source not just for misinformation but also for disinformation. Therefore, it leads to polarization of the society. It leads to manipulation of the elections. It leads to propaganda of certain extremist ideology, for example, the Naxalism or the terrorism, etc. Therefore, this information or this particular fake news can have further consequences on the society, on the polity. For example, it can harm the social fabric of the society. In the shorter run, it can hamper or tarnish image of a person, especially of celebrities, of whom the deep fakes are very prevalent these days. Then it can also lead to the violation of the privacy that has been given to us by the Article 21 of Indian Constitution. Not only that, it also in the longer run erodes the overall faith and trust of the people on the media or on the governance institutions or on the democracy itself. So therefore, it also threatens not only the society but also the spirit of democracy. This further enhances the vulnerabilities of a society to get manipulated. So they can get manipulated both politically, both socially, and this can be done, see for example, a very credible leader comes out and says something which has never been said by him or does something which has never been done by him in reality. The people in the lack of awareness of deep fakes will consider whatever has been said by him as the ultimate truth and will start following it. So therefore, it showcases a lot of signs of credibility that could harm the political fabric and the social fabric of the society. Therefore, it also becomes a big ground or a new ground for a new type of warfare which is stimulated by the cyber warfare or the cyber technologies. So for example, it helps in easy propagation of propaganda, of ideologies that could be harmful for the society, that could be harmful for the peace and prosperity. It can also extract money, it can also extract crucial information because it can fake the authenticity of the person who is taking it. So these are some of the threats that are posed by deepfake. Now, what are the measures to deal with deep fakes? First of all is to leverage the overall digital literacy and awareness of the citizens so that they can differentiate between the real world data and the virtual world data. So first one is how to spot the deep fakes. That's something that we should be learning. First of all, to observe the unnatural eye movements. In the case of deep fakes, it's very difficult to maintain the normal gaze movements that are coordinated and that are smooth and flow as shown by humans. Then the contrast of the light and the color tone of their skin or of the subject with the surrounding is also very different. So this is how we can also spot the deep fakes. Then the audio and body posture imperfections are also very prevalent. Then certain artificial facial movements can also be spotted because they are either exaggerated or they are out of sync with the overall posture, overall tonality of the body or all the language. So once we have understood how to spot it, we should also make sure we are cross-verifying this data by putting the picture or putting this data on Google and then cross-verifying whether there are certain similar pictures, and then we should make ourselves aware that we need not to, or we need to stop the spread of this information because this is a fake news, detrimental for the society. Then at the national level, while there are certain legislations in place, for example, the section 67A of the IT Act, which penalizes defamation, which penalizes the propagation of explicit material, and both of them are a part of or are tools of deep fakes. So in this case, we can penalize them using the IT Act. Also using the section 500 of IPC, the defamation case can be imposed on the person. And last but not the least, the IT rules of 2023, which has been recently posted on a Twitter handle of the Union Minister, has also reiterated that it is the legal obligation of the social media platforms to ensure that there is no misinformation posted by them. Ensure that when reported by a user or government that the misinformation has been spread, it has to be removed within 36 hours. Then, if platform do not comply with this, then according to the rule number 7 of this IT rules, the platforms will be taken to court by the aggrieved person. So these are some of the awareness that you and I as a citizen should also be having. Now, what are the international best practices that can be observed? So as taken from the pioneer in data protection, that is the European Union, a code of practice on disinformation has been set in place so that they can curb and set some standards on deep synthesis technology, and they can curb the spreading of disinformation using deep fakes. Then USA has set up a deep fake task force act in order to support its Ministry of Defense, of Homeland Security basically. Then China in its recent regulation has set up clear regulations for ensuring the traceability and clear labeling of the deep synthesis video and liability on the person who's trying to produce misinformation in the society. So these are some of the methods in which we can try to curb the viral deep fakes, not just in India but also in world. Then coming to the concluding remarks, an eye for eye. For example, using AI to counter the menace created by AI would be the best way forward. So using technologies like blockchain, like certain algorithms which should be promoted for the social media platforms to be installed in them for appropriate fact checking, so that appropriate detection, flagging and automatic deletion of such content can be enabled. Next, Deepfake Accountability Act should be there, which can set in place some fund which will provide you grievance redressal, which will provide the institutions to work more efficiently and also address the challenges which are related to the deepfakes, and also ensure accountability on the government to make sure that this menace is curbed. And last but not the least, we need to make sure that the right precedence is set in place, that the aggrieved party is duly compensated and the person who has conducted the crime or who has conducted the act under a bad faith is punished duly. And also we need to create public awareness campaigns so that a person will be able to distinguish between real world and the virtual world. Coming to the next topic, this is Central Information Commission. Why are we reading about this? Because recently, Hira Lal Samaria has been appointed as the Chief Information Commissioner of India. Why are we reading about this? Because it is important from GS point of view, where we have to read about certain statutory organizations and also read about enhancing transparency and accountability in the governance of India. So first of all, what is a Central Information Commission? It is a pivotal statutory organization which is responsible for the implementation of the Sunshine Law of India, the Anti-Corruption Law of India, that is Right to Information Act 2005. What has led to the genesis? The genesis lies in a Supreme Court verdict for the first time in the Mr. Kulwal versus Jaipur Municipal Corporation case, whereby Supreme Court instated that Article 19, that is the right to speech and expression, is implicit to having the right to information, because without having proper information about the governance, a citizen will never be able to effectively exercise his right to speech and expression. So once it has become implicit to it, the act was passed in 2005, out of which a statutory organization was conducted or created which was responsible for the overall surveillance and implementation of the RTI. This was the Central Information Commission. And the main aim is to create a corruption-free India, because corruption, as we know, occur in dark places. And sunlight is the best of all disinfectants. So in order to expose the happenings of the governance, we need to make sure that there is certain accountability and transparency matrix set in place. And that matrix is set in place by the RTI Act and its related provisions and digital platforms. Now, what is the composition of a CIC? This is very interesting, so kindly have a look. It is appointed, the information commissioners over here are appointed by the president. What is the strength? The strength, as suggested, is one chief information commissioner, which has to be supported by not more than 10 information commissioners. Now, they are elected by a high-powered selection committee, which is presided by the Prime Minister. So if I'm writing positive, it stands for the party that is the government of the day, and the negative stands for the opposition. So how to remember the composition of the selection committee? So it stands for a positive and a negative, which means it will be headed by Prime Minister. The other member would be a Union Cabinet Minister of the same party, of course, nominated by the Prime Minister. So this is a Cabinet Minister. And then Leader of Opposition, that is coming from Lok Sabha. So this is the entire composition of a high-powered selection committee which recommends who shall become the Information Commissioner of India. What is the tenure? This is again a very unique fact that unlike other bodies, the tenure of CIC is not fixed. It is prescribed by the central government, and it is also said or until they attain the age of 65 years, whichever is earlier. But one more thing you need to keep in mind, that they are not eligible for reappointment. Again, a very crucial fact for prelims point of view. Now let's come to the mains analytical part. What are the issues with CIC? The first is the case of pendency or the growing backlogs of the case. So whatever cases or whatever appeals have been filed in the CIC have largely been backlogged because of one most important reason, that is the inefficiency of the working of CIC. This inefficiency is due to lack of resources, lack of adequate infrastructure, especially the digital infrastructure, especially the maintenance of digital records. And as a result of this, it is seen that it has got a very poor disposal rate. If you file one appeal, then it will take an average of more than 1 year to get disposed of from CIC. Eventually, this has led to burdening of the CIC with about 2.3 lakh cases, such as the high number of pendency going in CIC. And this defeats the very idea of providing right to information, because information not delivered or not rendered to the aggrieved party in the right time eventually leads to what we know as delay in justice, which leads to denial of justice. The second reason is vacancies and understaffing, a very big reason which contributes to the overall inefficiency of the CIC. It has been iterated by the Supreme Court time and again that effort should be made to fill up these vacancies so that the CIC could function in its maximum strength, that is of 1+10. But it has never happened so far. So therefore, vacancies and understaffing largely compromises its working efficiency. And then is the non-compliance of the CIC order, because they lack autonomy, because the Chief Information Commission and the Information Commissioners thereby, they lack and also they become lethargic towards imposing due penalties. So the number of penalties that have been imposed, if you see the data, of the 59% violations that have occurred in the RTA Act so far, only 2.2% have been penalized, which means very, very low on penalizing. Then, because of non-compliance, it is also seen that a lot of departments, for example, the recent case of RBI, which time and again refused to publish the data on demonetization when they were being called upon by the CICs repeatedly. It can be seen that even the government departments are not complying with the orders or the orders of the CIC. Next is the lack of transparency in the appointment process. the methodology in which they have been appointed. For example, in the recent case, in this newspaper itself, it has been covered that the opposition minister, the minister of opposition has said, or the leader of opposition has said, that his consent has not been taken while they were deciding on who has to become the CIC. So therefore, the lack of transparency, the behind the doors working of the CIC or the selection committee is also one of the biggest reasons why it is not able to ensure the public trust or maintain the public trust in India. So then what can we do about it? First of all, we need to ensure that there is timely appointment of the staff, appointment of the officers, so that it can further up the functioning. And this appointment should be done in a transparent manner so that it helps to consolidate the faith of RTI on the public. Then reduce the backlogs. How are we able to do that? By allocating resources, providing more funds, more autonomy, so that they can devolve the money in infrastructure development, especially in building digital infrastructure, in upskilling the people, in hiring different talents. Then enhancing the digital infrastructure. This is especially important for maintaining the digital record so that we can streamline the flow of filing the complaint, looking or tracking at the complaint, also giving the feedbacks whenever we are not getting the complaints. So all of this process can be streamlined using efficient digital infrastructure and proper digital records. Then capacity building of CIC, also proactive disclosure. Now this is a very important measure. See, the government department needs to take up proactive responsibility of publishing their own data suo motu on their digital platforms so that the need for a person to file the RTI is lessened up. This will also lessen up the burden that is going on in the CIC. So these are some of the measures through which we can deal or we can improvise the efficiency of the CIC or the Central Information Commission. Next is the Collegium System. Now, a collegium headed by Chief Justice of India on Monday recommended the Chief Justices of the 3 High Courts for appointment to the Apex Court. Apex Court, that is the Supreme Court. Why? Because out of the total sanctioned strength of 34, Supreme Court is still functioning at a strength of 31. So, in order to fill the gap of these 3 judges, Supreme Court or the Collegium System has proactively approved and recommended for the other 3 judges. So, we will look into the system of Collegium. So, what is Collegium? Collegium essentially is a forum that is comprised of judges of Supreme Court and High Court, which essentially is responsible for appointment and transfers of the judges of Supreme Court and of High Court. The term collegium is not mentioned anywhere in the Constitution. It has been developed via some of the judicial precedences. Now, what ensures the appointment of judges? These are the articles, Article 124, Clause 2 and Article 217 for the High Court. Now, both of these articles have mentioned a very unique term in them. So, let's read on to what has been written in the Constitution. It has been written that every judge of the Supreme Court shall be appointed by the President after consultation with the judges of the Supreme Court and High Court in the states as the President may deem necessary. Now, entire definition is clear to us. Entire statement is clear except for one place where lies the entire ambiguity. That is, what do we mean by consultation? Does consultation means concurrence or does it means just asking for somebody's opinion? So, this confusion led to the evolution of collegium system in India. So, what happened? From 1950s to 1973, it was seen that the Supreme Court judges were appointed largely on the basis of a set precedence, and this precedence was to appoint the senior most judges. But then came an ambiguous case of 1973 where Indira Gandhi, she deviated from this precedence and she appointed A.N. Ray as the CJI, who was not the senior most at that time. And seniority does not mean seniority in terms of age, but seniority in terms of experience. So the first case in developing the collegium system comes in 1982 in the form of first judge's case, or also known as the S.P. Gupta case. Here, Supreme Court interpreted the meaning of consultation given in the Indian Constitution, and they said that consultation only means to exchange the views and not necessarily to comply by it, to mandatorily comply by it. That is, it does not mean concurrence. But then, whatever was told in this, or whatever was said in this case was completely modified in the second judges cases or the Supreme Court Advocates on Record Association case of 1993, also known as second judges case. Now here, consultation was given a different meaning. The interpretation was that consultation stands for clear concurrence, which means the president has to obey to whatever has been recommended to him by the system of or by the senior most judges. Now this concurrence shouldn't be given by the CJI alone, but this concurrence should be given in an institutional manner. So it also for the first time set up an institutional mechanism, and this institution was now known to be the Collegium System. So in the second judges cases, this collegium comprised of CJI and the two senior most judges. But then comes the third judges cases, where the expansion of this institutional mechanism was enhanced. So this expansion was done in the form of adding two more judges to the collegium. So now in the present time, the Collegium System of India is having total 5 judges. One is the judge of Supreme Court, the CJI of Supreme Court, and then the 4 senior most judges of the Supreme Court. Therefore, in this manner, judiciary gets a greater say on the executive when it comes to appointment and transfer of the judges of Supreme Court and High Court, and President merely has to approve whatever has been said to him by this collegium. Now, what are the mechanisms or procedures of appointment of Supreme Court judge and the High Court judge? So first and foremost, a judge of a Supreme Court is appointed on a proposal initiated by the CJI. Now, CJI consults the collegium, that is the other 4 senior most judges of the Supreme Court, and also consults the senior most judge of the High Court from which they are trying to bring the Supreme Court judge. Then, a preliminary inquiry is conducted by Intelligence Bureau on the list of the judges that are published, and then this list is submitted to the law minister. This law minister either tries to put some grievances, if any, with regards to this list, but the ultimate approval belongs to the collegium only. And then law minister sends it to Prime Minister, and Prime Minister finally sends it to President for approval. So this is the mechanism for appointment of judges of Supreme Court. What about the High Court? It is slightly different. Actually, the proposal is initiated not by the CJI, but by the Chief Justice of the High Court, and in a collegium manner, which means the CJ of the High Court and the 2 senior most judges of the High Court. And also there is a mandate that whoever is going to be appointed as a judge of a High Court, for example, the Patna High Court, should not belong to Bihar region. That is also one of the convention followed by Supreme Court or followed by Indian judiciary. Now, this proposal is sent to the collegium, and it is consulted with the collegium, which is CJI along with 2 senior most judges of Supreme Court, and then it is sent to the Chief Minister. Chief Minister then advises the governor. So here are different stakeholders as compared to appointment of Supreme Court judges. So now it is sent to governor, then it is sent to law minister for his proposal, and then finally it is sent to president for his accent. So this was the process of appointment of judges in India. Next topic, very important from prelims point of view, this is the green crackers. So in order to abate the noise pollution during the Diwali, it has been highlighted that green crackers are the need of the hour. So first of all, what is the need of green cracker? Green cracker help us to abate not only the air pollution but also the noise pollution. According to WHO, what is noise pollution? It has given a very standardized, metric definition to it, which is whenever noise exceeds 65 decibel. Decibel is the unit with which we measure the sound. So whenever it exceeds 65 decibels, it is considered as a noise. Whenever it exceeds 75 decibel, it is considered as harmful for humans, harmful for the environment. And more than 120 decibel is considered painful for the ears. So this is the noise pollution. And there are multiple impacts of noise pollution, not just on plants, not just on the animals, also on the humans, because it essentially disturbs the circadian rhythm. It enhances the overall cortisol level, which are responsible for imparting stress in the body. It also gives psychological disorders like stress and anxiety. It also gives sleep disorders, and it also leads to cardiac health issues, which basically is there because of high BP. And a case of high BP we have already read before in the Analyst. That was the case of hypertension. So hypertension is when your BP is somewhere between 190 to 140 or exceeding this limit. So this noise also leads to hypertension, which eventually leads to cardiac health issues. Now, what about the noise regulation codes in India? It is basically codified or regulated by the Noise Pollution Regulation and Control Rules of 2000. Here, first of all, noise is defined. It is same as that defined by WHO. Then it prohibits noise in the silent zones and anywhere apart from silent zones after 10 p.m. in the night. So it is not allowed. So please be very mindful while you are trying to fire crackers during Diwali. Then during daytime and in the industrial areas, the firecracker noise cannot exceed 75 decibels. The commercial and residential areas have got their own limit. Commercial areas have got limits of 65 and residential have got of 55 decibel. Now what is this formula? This formula stands for a logarithmic equation, which stands that a person or a resident will be able to file a complaint in case the overall noise in his area goes beyond 10 decibel LEQ, where A stands for the amount of perceived noise and LEQ stands for the amount of or the period, the time period of this perceived noise. So if it exceeds 10 decibel rate, then the person can, if it overshoots this rate, then the person can complain to the authority under this particular act. Now, let's talk about the green crackers. These are essentially developed by the Neary Institute, which is under a subsidiary of the CSIR. It was developed for the first time in 2018. Why are they called green crackers? Because not only they help in curbing the air pollution but also the noise pollution. How the air pollution? Because they have got certain humidifiers. They release essentially water vapors, which increases the humidity, dampens down the dust, as we have already seen in the case of GRAP. In the previous analyst, we have already seen that PM 2.5 is essentially derived from dust, and dust contributes to more than 70% of the total air pollution in the Delhi NCR region. So therefore, curbing of this dust is very important. Secondly, the harmful emissions, for example, the carbon emissions or emissions like barium nitrate of heavy metals, magnesium nitrate or aluminium, these are also replaced with better alternatives in the green crackers. Therefore, we are not only ensuring that the fireworks are clean, but they are also noise regulated and they are also green. They are less dangerous, they are less harmful than the conventional ones. Their chemical formulations produces water molecules as a byproduct, and this substantially reduces the emission levels because of the humidifiers in them. And then it also promises a 30 to 35% reduction in the total amount of air pollutants, essentially the particulate matter 2.5 and 10 in the atmosphere. The brands available in India are Swas, Star and Safal. You need to remember this. They can be asked in the prelims examination and you can be made to answer that all of them are associated with what? So all of them are the names of green crackers of India. Essentially, they do not have sulfur, which is harmful. Sulfur is subsidized or substituted by carbon. They do not contain your barium nitrate or magnesium nitrate or aluminium nitrate. Rather, it contains potassium nitrates. It also releases water vapors and also certain other diluents. So this is about green crackers in India. The last topic, Indo-Pacific Maritime Domain Awareness Initiative. This is regards to India trying to enhance its influence on the Indo-Pacific region, in the IOR region specifically, as highlighted by the Navy Chief. Now, this initiative is led by the Quad Group. The Quad Group, which is also known as the Democratic Security Diamond, an idea that was given by Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in 2007, which led to its development. This is not a formal organization, this is an informal one which sustained itself with the help of some summits or meetings or some military exercises, for example, the Malabar exercise. So Quad is comprised of India, Japan, USA and Australia. These four countries are main dominant power who are also aspiring to beat the ambitious China. As a result of this, they realized the importance of exchanging information, especially the maritime domain awareness needs to be exchanged, needs to be generated more effectively. The emerging challenge right now with regards to MDA or maritime domain awareness is that there is growing amount of dark shipping happening. So there are multiple types of shipping. One that is covered on commercial level. So when your commercial ships are moving, that is called a white shipping. It's completely harmless. It's good for the trade and economy. Then there is grey shipping, which is the movement of military vehicles. And then there is dark shipping, where in order to evade or in order to conduct illegal activities, what is done by the shipmen? They basically remove their automatic identity card so that they cannot be geo-tagged. Their activities could not be traced. And in order to curb with this menace of dark shipping, we have created Indo-Pacific Maritime Domain Awareness Initiative. Now, this was conducted or this was announced by Quad leaders in the year 2022 in a summit of Tokyo. And it basically targets two things. First of all, the subsurface level movement, that is a submarine level movement that is not very difficult to be interpreted by radars. And second, grey shipping, that is military movement, and then the dark shipping. So it is going to handle all these four aspects. Now, what is the importance, what is the significance of creating this Maritime Domain Initiative, Awareness Initiative? First of all, it's because IUR is of high strategic significance for us, not just for India, but across global. So IUR has got 75% of the world trade moving across it. And more than 50% of the oil trade is also happening across it. So therefore, it has got high strategic relevance. Second, there is a growing menace of illegal, unregulated and unreported fishing. Now, this is robbing off the important food resources like fishes in the areas which are more driven by the blue economy. It is also robbing off the important economic resources from the ocean basins as a result of the illegal activity. So we also need to make sure that we are curbing this menace in a more consolidated manner. That is why this initiative was proclaimed. And second, in order to align with the India's Sagar initiative, that is in order to provide or become a net security provider for the entire Indo-Pacific region. So therefore, this initiative was set in place. This was all about today. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.